uh, around an issue that's so important to all of our lives, and to understand, most importantly, that we have to learn how to cooperate to get over the conflict and solve these grand challenges before us. And some of those grand challenges are about how we can grow food and not, harm the environment so much, so that our kids in the future don't have a place to go for a hike and have clean air and healthy water. And climate change is one of those issues that has become somewhat politicized in the United States. And, I guess maybe I'm saying that mildly, but I think it's critical that we get beyond that. This is not a political issue. If you're a human being on this planet, I think we all are in this room as of right now, we all have a stake in this issue. And I think it's going to require an all-hands-on-deck approach to solve it. But the solutions are within our reach, and that's one thing I really want to hit on, is I have a lot of optimism. I've been studying this problem for a while, for a little over a decade, and I've been thinking about how the Earth's chemical cycles interact and with the biology of the planet and give rise to our air and our water and then a stable climate. But also, I want to make this point that the world has helped us tremendously deal with climate change already, but it might be running out of the ability to do that. And we're kind of hitting this critical threshold, and that's something I want to talk to you about a little bit today. So there's this word that you'll see in the scientific literature, maybe some of you are familiar with, you come across it in the book. The word is Anthropocene. So anthropo being human and scene being a new geologic epoch. The Anthropocene, in many respects, is the greatest time in the history of humanity on the planet. We have seen the capacity to grow food and feed billions of people. Really going back to a technology that was invented a bit over 100 years ago, our capacity to make fertilizer from the air. That supports about 4-5 billion people on the planet today. Really revolutionary, amazing. Throughout this time, we've also seen that today levels of poverty are lower than they've ever been on the planet. Life expectancy is greater than it's ever been. We've seen modern medicine and the advances of technology come and make this world quite comfortable for many of us. Now, we certainly have a lot of issues. There's third world countries that don't have access to clean water. They don't have stable food systems. So we have a lot of work to do. But I don't want us to forget that this is the greatest time that humanity, in human history. If we look at also the rates of peace, this is a time where there's more peace on the planet per capita than in recorded history. That's hard to believe that when you see all this stuff in the news, but per capita rates of murder are lower than they've ever been. But we have a lot of progress, and so the issue is, of course, as we help humanity become healthy and more stable, a little bit more prosperous, we know there's no such thing as a free lunch. We've done this on the back of the environment, and what we've done in large measure is we've taken ancient carbon that was buried at the time of the dinosaurs, which are called fossil fuels. We burned that carbon in the form of coal and oil, and to an extent natural gas, and then we use that to drive this economy, to drive this innovation. And that's how we've done things for the past couple hundred years on this planet. But we know that now we're seeing that as a result of these changes, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is going up. And this is estimates going back to 1860. And you can see that CO2 concentrations have risen to levels that are close to about 400 part per million today. Now, is that an important number? Yeah. If you go back and you take an ice core, and you cut through that ice core, and you take out the bubbles that are trapped, and you date them over time, we can see that that level of carbon dioxide has not existed, as far as we can tell, based on the best science, for 20 million, 30 million years on the planet. Now, this has happened very quickly, and it's happened as a result of our burning of fossil fuel, and we can also see clearly that emissions of carbon going to the atmosphere when we burn coal and other types of fossil fuels is driving this change. So why is this important? Well, this was an article that was just published in the New York Times this year showing that 2016 became Earth's hottest year on record, and this is the record, temperature record going back. It's based on combining different techniques, using satellites, using thermometers, so on and so forth. And what you can see is that Earth's temperature continues to rise. Right now, the Earth's temperature since the Industrial Revolution has increased close to almost 2 degrees Fahrenheit. That's at the global scale. This is being driven by these greenhouse gases. As we put CO2 into the air, that CO2 acts as a blanket, it warms the planet. It's just based on physics. You could do the same experiment in a little beaker. It pump up some CO2, watch it get hotter. That's pretty certain. There's not a lot of uncertainty around that particular issue. And we know that this is having impacts. Here's a computer simulation taking these different records and then showing how the planet's temperature has changed. And what's interesting is you can see that it's clearly getting hotter, and this is on a Fahrenheit scale, and I said that on average, the planet has increased 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, interestingly, you can see that the high latitudes are warming much more rapidly. Again, that was predicted by the first computer models. And why is that? Well, if you get to the high latitudes, you have a lot of ice and snow. It reflects back to sunlight. Well, as that snow and ice begins to melt, and you have lakes, and you have trees, and you have soil that's exposed, that actually absorbs the sun's energy more rapidly. So it's a feedback. As it melts, it gets darker, which intensifies the rate of planet warming. And you can experience that if you go for a run on a nice hot day wearing a black shirt versus a white shirt, right? We know that happens, and that's what's happening at the planet. But what's interesting, and I think what's alarming, is that the studies are now suggesting that this is causing global problems. About 400,000 people a year appear to be dying from heat stroke and other related issues associated with climate change. So that's a decent number. Moreover, it's starting to cost the world money. About $1.2 trillion were estimated in marginal damages from climate impacts. That's to real estate, that's to mistakes at work, that's to rising sea levels, that's to extreme climate and weather patterns making it difficult to grow food, so on and so forth. So this is becoming a problem that's starting to cost us money and cost us lives. And the estimates are that if we continue business as usual, the economy will be facing about $20 trillion of economic damage each year with climate change impacts. So we got to come together. We got to solve this problem. Well, the good news is we can create jobs, we can revolutionize our economy, and maybe more importantly, we can learn how to cooperate as a species, which is a really important lost art that we're seeing, if we solve this problem. And I think the decision is up to us. You know, it's up to us collectively. And so, as much as we have a daunting challenge, I think it's an inspiring time. Now, this is the roadmap. This is what has to happen. We have to decarbonize the world, in other words, move toward alternative energies by cutting emissions in half each decade moving forward here on out. Now, this is called a carbon law. So here are total emissions, and these are units of gigatons, so that's billions of tons of CO2. These are total emissions. This is 2010, and this is going to 2100. Okay, so that's looking out into the future. These are annual emissions, and then these are the cumulative emissions that are accumulating in the atmosphere. Now, the problem is, we can't just decide, 20, 30 years from now, let's cut the CO2 off and we'll be fine. No, the CO2 stays in the system for at least 100 years. So we lock in to a rate of warming each year that we don't reduce emissions. And it makes it a really challenging problem because now we're having to make sacrifices today for our kids tomorrow. And many of us say, well, of course I would sacrifice today. Well, it's not so easy sometimes, when you're facing difficulties paying the bills and all these other things. So we really need to figure that out, but decarbonizing the world is what we need to do, and by 2050, we essentially have to become more or less carbon neutral. Where are we at right now? Well, in terms of reducing these emissions in the current, from 2010 to 2020, we're about 10% to that goal. So we're really behind where we need to be, but that doesn't mean we can't make progress. So now the other thing I want to point out here, and this is what I'm going to focus a lot on the talk on, is that the natural, what's called biosphere, these carbon sinks, have helped us tremendously so far. Okay, so when we see trees and we see grasses and we see soil, we know that carbon has been pulled out of the atmosphere and into the land system. And effectively, that is a free subsidy. We're not paying for it. It's reducing the pollution without a cost to us. And that has maintained itself for quite some time. But we're starting to get worried that we've hit a tipping point. And these sinks are no longer going to be able to help us. So I want to get into that today. So note that there's this biosphere carbon sink. And the idea of the current model is that this is going to maintain itself up until about 2050, and then it can start becoming reduced. And then we have these things called human carbon sinks, and this is recapturing CO2 through engineering approaches and burying it in the ground. So we have to have multiple things going on. We got to be reducing emissions, we have to be pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere, and we have to hope that these things continue into the future. So right now, the terrestrial biosphere, and when we say biosphere, it just means kind of this living area on the planet. It's hard to fully quantify, but we know that there's a lot of life on the planet, and its impact extends into the upper atmosphere, almost, and down into the rocks. Okay, so that's kind of the biosphere. Well, the biosphere has been consuming about 25% of our fossil fuel emissions each year. So what does that mean? Well, that means since 1850, it has stored about 322 billion tons of carbon. Well, what does that really mean? I mean, that's 22 billion tons of carbon look like? Well, one way to think about it is that without this happening, we would already be at 500 part per million CO2. In other words, we'd already be at a level where sea levels would be rising at a rate close to about 3 feet today. And we'd also be hitting what's called dangerous anthropogenic interference with the climate system. Okay, that's when we know that the risks of climate change are extreme. We see weather patterns changing dramatically. We're no longer to grow our food in the way we could because we have drought, we have wildfires that are causing all sorts of problems with natural ecosystems as well as human health, so on and so forth. So the natural world has helped us tremendously with this problem so far. And the question is, will that continue? Well, what is really going on here? Well, this is just to bring it back to a little bit of biology. And I know some of you are probably experts in this, and some of you are kind of like, well, I don't really want to see this slide, but that's okay. Let's walk through it. So we have two processes. Photosynthesis, of course, that's the way in which plants make their food. They take water and they take sunlight and they take the CO2 from the atmosphere and they turn it into organic matter. And we see that all around us out the window right now. We see that there's evidence that photosynthesis must be happening, otherwise we wouldn't see trees. It's also evidence that this other pathway, which is called respiration, that's what you and I do. We eat food, we break the carbon bonds that plants have provided. Maybe they provide to the animals we eat as well. And then we emit a little bit of CO2 back to the atmosphere. That's respiration. So it's a balancing act. How much photosynthesis are you going to have versus respiration? And one way to think about it is that these are really the money brokers of an ecosystem. Okay? These are the money brokers. This is the currency, is carbon. And these electrons are being transferred onto these molecules for energy through the process of photosynthesis. The issue is that the living world, as we know, is not super stable. Has anyone ever seen a wildfire? Raise your hand if you've seen a wildfire. Yeah, there's evidence that it's not stable. If it was stable, that carbon would just stay there. Now that's the process of respiration in parts. So we know that happens. And this means that the carbon that has been brought into the planet through plants is trying to escape back to